Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wassalamu ala Rasulullah. We continue reading from Imam Al-Ghazali's The Jewels of the Qur'an, Jawahir al-Qur'an, and we have reached chapter 4 في كيفية انشعاب العلوم الدينية كلها من الأقسام العشرة that were mentioned at the end of the previous chapter, including the I think it's very important to remember the divine essence, the attributes, divine action, the resurrection, the sirat. So these are purely religious issues, but the issue will be how to translate al-ulum ad-diniyya. This is important. وأن علوم القرآن تنقسم إلى علم الصدف وإلى علم الجواهر وبيان مراتب العلوم. In English, branching off of all sciences from the 10 divisions of the Qur'an and an explanation of grades of sciences. Immediately knowing how in English there is a problem with the wording in terms of the use of the word science. Ilm is the word ilm does not exclude metaphysical notions, and the problem with the positivist approach to the word science would exclude everything else other than the that which you could test in a lab, and not only once, of course. This is a serious problem, and this is why while I do welcome the findings, the survey that found many atheists in the West do not exclude supernatural forces, and the word atheist with along with the supernatural, it's almost an oxymoron. So it does entail a contradiction, and definitely famous scientists who have a very strong anti-religion, and in fact anti-Islam, Westerners who do not come from Islamic background, like Richard Dawkins. I think the share of Islam in his attacks the share is really much larger, and he's more sympathetic, though he's a professed atheist. He said that he feels like he would rather listen to a church bell ringing rather than the call for the prayer, the adhan. Imam Ghazali said, I suppose, long to know the manner of branching off of all these sciences from these 10 divisions of Quranic verses, and also the grades of these sciences in respect to nearness and remoteness from their intended purpose. Then know that the realities we hinted at have secrets and jewels, but also they have seashells, and the seashell is that which appears first. Some of the people who reach the seashells know only these, while others break the shells and carefully examine the pearls inside them. Likewise, the shell of the Jews of the Qur'an, its garment is the Arabic language. From this shell branch off 5 sciences, which are the sciences of the rind, the shell and the garment of the Quran. And if we talk about the linguistics, and this is described as from ulum al-ala, the auxiliary sciences. Thus, from the words of the Quran, stemmed off the science of Arabic language. From the zenential syntax of the words, stemmed off the science of syntax of Arabic grammar. From the various zenential syntax of the Quran, stemmed off the science of readings. From the manner of pronouncing Quranic letters, stemmed off the science of outlets of letters, makharij al-huruf, the phonemes, maybe. This is because the first of the parts of meanings with which speech is united is the sound. Then, by being shaped by the sound, becomes letters. Then the assemblage of letters makes a word. The specification of some of the assembled letters makes the Arabic language. Then the process of shaping letters attributes to it the quality of the essential syntax. Then the specification of one of the different essential syntax makes a reading ascribed to the 7 standard readings. 7 standard readings. القراءات السبع. The Quran is multiformic. One example for the sake of the listeners, what are these 7 readings? For example, in Surah Al-Fatiha, Maliki Yawmiddin, the owner of the day of judgment, the king of the day of judgment. If you look at the way it is written, practically it's the same. Practically it's the same. There might be a dagger alif, and which was not really at the very beginning of writing Arabic. Some readings would include immense glottal stops. It's beautiful. The Warsh is more predominant in North Africa and West Africa. Hafs and probably the rest of the eastern part of the Mediterranean, but this is true also of the Sunnite, and not necessarily only the Sunnite world. At any rate, so the 7 readings. Then when there is a proper Arabic, maybe I just remembered that maybe one particular word in the story of Yusuf, Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam, when the wife of the Al-Aziz, when she wanted to tempt Yusuf alayhi salam, and she used the word hayta lak, hi'tu lak, hita lak. So the same word has many ways of being read. I hope it's a better example. Then, when there's a proper Arabic word to which the essential syntax is applied, it has become the indicator of a meaning. Then it demands outward exegesis. And this is the fifth science. These are the sciences of the shell and the rand of the Qur'an. These sciences, however, are not of the same grade. On the contrary, a seashell has a face towards its inward part, and this face encounters the pearl face to face and nearly resembles it because of the proximity of its neighborhood and continuous of its contact with the pearl. The seashell has also a face towards its outward part, and this face nearly resembles all other stones because of the remoteness of its neighborhood and its lack of contact with the pearl. Likewise is the shell of the Qur'an. Its outward face is the sound, and the man entrusted with his knowledge of the knowledge of correcting its outlets in transmission and pronunciation is a man who possesses knowledge of letters. Thus he is the possessor of the knowledge of the outward rend, which is removed from the inward part of the shell, let alone the pearl itself. Ignorance of a group of people has indeed reached to the extent that they have imagined the Qur'an to be mere letters and sounds. And on this belief, they have passed the theory of the Qur'an, that the Qur'an is created, since letters and sounds are created. This, of course, is a reference to the Mu'tazilites' claim that the Qur'an is created, and that caused what became historically known as the Mihna. This is during the time of Al-Ma'mun, the Abbasid Caliph, who, it seems, has adopted the position of the Mu'tazilites. What are the implications? Well, practically, when we say that the Quran is the word of God in the absolute sense, subhanahu wa ta'ala, then what remains practically is to implement. So when you interpret with especially when we talk about the law, the aim is to implement, but also in theology, to implement, it means to adopt a specific theological position, say the true notion of monotheism. For example, nothing is like unto him, laysa kamithlihi shay, and to interpret this as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, since He created space and time, then they do not apply to Him subhanahu wa ta'ala, but more on the question of free will, which is practically advocated by the Mu'tazilites versus what in general is considered predestination, allotment. At any rate, one of the most famous scholars who was caught up in this is Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal, rahimahullah, who opposed the idea that the Quran is created. He was imprisoned and because of this, and he still rejected. He resisted in the real sense of the word. No pressure was enough. What is most fitting of these people is that they should be stoned to death, or, if it were possible, their intellect should be stoned. Of course, it's not possible to stone the intellect, but it's the idea itself. To reprimand them or to be severe with them is not enough for them as a calamity. Nothing of the words of the Qur'an and the stages of its heavens appear to them except its remotest end. This will acquaint you with the rank of knowledge of the Qur'an, of the Qur'an reader, for he only knows the correction of outlets of letters. The reciter of the Qur'an, the issue at stake is how to pronounce the best pronunciation possible as handed down through the centuries. Contiguous to it is in rank the science of the language of the Qur'an. This is a science which includes, for example, the translation of the Qur'an and that which is near to it. That is the science of the strange words of the Qur'an. غريب ألفاظ القرآن I don't know whether the word strange is the most appropriate translation, but there are words in the Quran that are unique in terms of the rarity of their use. Near to the science of the Quranic language, the science of the essential syntax of language and the syntax of grammar. In one respect, this science falls after the science of language, for the essential syntax is after that to which it is applied. When compared to that science in respect of value also, it is below that, for it is like that which follows the language. Then near to the science of the essential syntax is the science of readings. This is a science by which the different ways of the essential syntax and various types of modes of pronunciation are known. It is more special to the Quran than philology and syntax of grammar, but is among the superfluous things which are not needed, whereas philology and syntax of grammar are such that man is in need of them. Thus the philologist and the grammarian are at a higher rank than one who knows only the science of readings. All these people, however, turn around the shell and the end of the Quran, although their grades are different. Near to the science of readings is the science of outward exegesis of the Quran. This is the last grade of the shell of the Quran, which is near to contact with the pear. This is the reason why its resemblance with the pear has become strong, so that some people imagine that is the pearl itself, and that beyond it there is nothing more valuable than it. It is with it that most people are content. How great are their deception and deprivation, for they have imagined that there is no rank beyond the rank of theirs. However, this issue in particular you would not, as a simple rule, you would not resort to allegorical, for example, interpretation of the Quran, unless there is a reason for that. And the Quran itself, it refers to itself as having two um, types of verses, محكم and متشابه. And محكم is pretty much um, fixed, if you will, and متشابه is more open to interpretation. But also the problem also with interpretation is that you will find that some scholars adopted the theological narratives that came from the people of the book, both Jews and Christians. I'm reluctant to use Judeo-Christian because there is no such a thing. There is no Judeo-Christian. There are serious differences between both in all respects. It's a late construct and it's really political in nature. It is with that most people are content. How great are their deception and deprivation, for they have imagined that there is no rank beyond the rank of theirs. However, in relation to those who possess the knowledge of the other sciences of the shell, they are at a rank high and noble. Since the science of exegesis is mighty when compared to other sciences of the shell, because it is not meant for them while they are meant for it. When people at these 5 grades fulfill the stipulations of their sciences, preserving them and transmitting them in a complete manner, God will appreciate their efforts and cleanse their faces. So God will appreciate their efforts and cleanse their faces, as His Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam prayed, may God grant an easy life to the man who heard my saying, then took it in, and then transmitted it as he heard it. It may be that the bearer of knowledge bears it to one who is not learned, and it may be that a bearer of knowledge bears it to one who is more learned than he. نضر الله امرأ سمع مقالتي فوعاها فأداها كما سمعها فرب حامل فقه إلى غير فقيه ورب حامل فقه إلى من هو أفقه منه. They, the people of the 5 grades just mentioned, heard and transmitted and will consequently obtain the reward of bearing what they heard and transmitting it to one who is more learned than them, or to one who is not learned, the exegete, who is confined in the science of exegesis to narrating that which is related. Al-Manqul, to him is a bearer and transmitter, just as the one, or as one, who has memorized the Qur'an and traditions is a bearer and transmitter. Likewise, the science of tradition branches off into these parts, except reading of and the correction of the outlets of letters. The grade of one who memorizes traditions and transmits them is like that of one who teaches the Quran and memorizes it. The grade of one who knows only the outward meanings of traditions is like that of an exegete. The grade of one who concerns himself with the science of names of transmitters of traditions is like the grade of a grammarian or philologist. And rest assured, only Muslims have such a tradition. No one else has the knowledge of who transmitted what. We know when a hadith is forged. We know the transmitters. We know who are trustworthy and do not lie. We know who has a problem with memory, not with character. This is because the chain of the transmission of traditions and narration of them constitute the instrument of their transmission to us, and upright conditions of the transmitters from a stipulation for the soundness of the instrument of transmission. Thus, knowledge of the transmitters and knowledge of their conditions amount to the knowledge of the instrument and the stipulation of the instrument. Inshallah, we will in the next session we'll deal with the second type, because this is really what we have read, the sciences of the shell of the Qur'an. Then the second type is the sciences of the pith, lubab, علوم اللباب. Until the next session, inshallah. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.